See, what we're waiting on is the Wyatt 6. It's the Wyatt 6. He's gonna reveal 6 components of his personality. And it's like, dude, this guy is already a bipolar character. Once you have your fictitious gimmicks manifest as actual in-ring characters and help you win, dude, at least whenever R-Truth had the Little Jimmy gimmick, Little Jimmy was actually a fake person. Chest up, shoulders back. Welcome to Revival Wrestling, where I have better takes on wrestling than you, and you know it. And this video, guys, is something I was kind of spurred into making. It's midnight right now, and I wasn't able to watch Raw tonight. I saw some highlights online, though. And we're going to talk about something. We're going to talk about Bray Wyatt, and I've defended him in the past. I'm not going to say I'm an outright hater of his gimmick. I've liked a lot of the stuff he's done. If you ask me, the original Wyatt family gimmick was the best act he's had. When he was just the cult leader, he was from the Bayou, he was leading the way, and he had all the big guys around him. That worked very smoothly, it made sense, but unless something changes, it looks like WrestleMania is going to be Brock and Omos, which that's going to have a lot of question marks, shall we say. I think MVP is going to help carry that a lot. But we have that match, and as weird as that might be, I would bet any money it's going to be much better than Bray Wyatt and Bobby Lashley. So the clip I saw, the Muscle Man dance thing, played on the Jumbotron with Lashley on it. If I'm not mistaken, he used that whenever he was about to face Cena at WrestleMania. And oddly enough, I might be in the minority here. I actually liked the Firefly Funhouse match with Cena at the WrestleMania a few years ago. I like the storytelling. It was sort of like a trip, like a psychedelic trip in a way. Cena was going back in time and reliving a lot of what brought him to where he is today. And then eventually Bray beat him as the Fiend he was. And that's the thing, though. That didn't need to be a wrestling match, right? There was not really any legitimate wrestling in the ring happening that entire time. And that's what I'm starting to realize with Bray. He's got a very interesting mind. He's very creative. He seems to always have some horror movie twist on the stuff he does. But in terms of actual wrestling, tangible wrestling product, this isn't working anymore. So once I saw that he did this little Firefly Muscle Man dance thing with Lashley, my first thought was, this is not something Lashley does or should be doing, right? Lashley, he's been booked like this recently, and this is how he should be booked. He's a legit badass. He's an MMA guy. He's been wrestling for years. He hasn't aged in 20 years. He's jacked out of his mind, right? The Almighty. He was the champion for a long time. Like, this is a legit dude. So if he gets fed to Bray, I'm going to be very upset. I'm just going to tell you right now. I'll have a scathing review if that happens at WrestleMania, and I'm very worried that's what's going to happen. But let's assume that's off the table right now. Let's say he even beats Bray, which I don't think he's going to, unfortunately. But let's assume he does. Lashley is not the guy for Bray's gimmick, right? Lashley is not very good at acting. He's not bad on the mic, per se. He can hold his own. But you and I both know, listening to Lashley on the microphone for more than 3 to 5 minutes, it starts to be like, okay, let's get, right? He's not a guy that you want to be listening to very much. He's similar to Lesnar, but Lesnar has more natural humor and charisma than Lashley does. But Lashley talking for long does not end well. His voice does not match his physique, his fighting skills, his background, all of this. So from that aspect alone, I am very worried about how this whole promo and build up to this match with Bray is going to go. I think it's going to make Lashley look very weak. I guess he's the heel in this matchup. It's very funny because all these feuds Wyatt's in, he gets cheered because, you know, he's an interesting guy. But think about to the LA Knight feud that they just did. I was excited about that one. That ended in a complete stinker at the Royal Rumble. Oh, the pitch black match, Mountain Dew, 6 minutes, over. It was complete garbage. And then Uncle Howdy, his imaginary friend in the big head mask, jumps off the stage. It's just ridiculous at this point. And I used to defend Bray, like I said, but I'm at my breaking point. This is absurd now. But if you remember the LA Knight feud, LA Knight was the heel in that feud, but if you actually look at like the bullet point history of how that happened, LA Knight should have been the babyface. He was cutting his own promo, Bray interrupted, Bray was the one who struck him first, he headbutted him first, then Bray attacked a cameraman, right? So Bray does all of this stuff, he's the one that started everything, but he's the good guy in the feud. And of course LA Knight's gimmick is a heel, so they're gonna boo him, but LA Knight carried that feud on his back. He was supposed to somehow help the audience make sense of, oh, here's Bray. Now he's happy, now he's sad, here comes Uncle Howdy, here comes this. I'm sure Alexa Bliss will jump into this at some point too, because she's like irrelevant now without the whole sister, is she Sister Abigail, whatever it is, right? You see what I'm saying though? Bray is creative and unique, but his talent is not to be used in a wrestling ring or around it. He needs to be writing movies, he needs to be on a Hollywood set. He could even do something YouTube-wise or biography-wise for WWE. He could do like Superstar Ghost Stories or something, right? But this whole supernatural multiple personalities thing, it's to the point now where it's redundant. Oh, it's the Funhouse, it's this thing, and then he, you know, the stuff's gonna flash on the screen, and he's gonna be happy with people, then he's gonna get angry, and he's gonna get upset, and he's gonna attack them, right? I'm over it at this point. I think a lot of you guys are too. But we're at the point now where like you're gonna take a monumental talent like Lashley, and he very well could get buried from this. This could take a long time to recover from. We saw it with LA Knight too. I mean, that guy just got to the main roster. He's no question a top 5 promo in the entire company already. Good in ring too. I don't want to say he's completely buried, but have you seen him? Where's he been? What, he's fighting with Kofi Kingston recently? That's good. Kofi's a former champion. But still, he lost that match really quickly, and it doesn't make any sense how he lost the match. We can assume, this is my assumption, I'm going to say that his feud, if you want to even call it that, with Lashley is going to be a dud. I really hope Lashley doesn't lose at WrestleMania. I really think he's going to, because I'm sure, here's what all the Bray fans say. See, what we're waiting on is the Wyatt 6. It's the Wyatt 6. He's going to reveal 6 components of his personality. And it's like, dude, this guy is already a bipolar character. He drags Alexa Bliss into this here and there. Again, I'm sure she's going to be coming back. Uncle Howdy already comes in whenever the heck he wants, whoever it even is. I guess it's Bo Dallas, his brother, is underneath that. But even so, the Uncle Howdy character makes no sense at all. It's just some weird mythical thing that shows up, turns on Bray randomly, and then he jumps off the ceiling and onto LA Knight, even though he missed by 20 feet. You know what I mean? At that point, once you have your fictitious gimmicks manifest as actual in-ring characters and help you win, dude, at least whenever R-Truth had the Little Jimmy gimmick, Little Jimmy was actually a fake person. Do you remember that? Little Jimmy! And he was fake. Bray Wyatt has a bunch of... He basically is turning his character into like this complete psych ward patient, and all of his goofy hallucinations are coming true around him. And that can sound cool whenever you say it or just see it written out as a sentence or two, but the actual execution of this, I don't know, man. And I remember whenever he was originally released, I was the same way. I was like, oh, how could you do that, Vince? Get rid of him. He's such a creative, great talent. I'm at the point now where I can find myself agreeing with Vince. And honestly, Vince has been vindicated on a lot of these releases before he had to leave the company. He's been vindicated a lot. You see a lot of these guys he released, they go to AEW. They basically expose how lazy and creatively bankrupt they are without, you know, the WWE structure. A lot of these guys leave WWE and they stop lifting weights and caring for their appearance, let alone doing anything else. That's beside the point, though. The Fiend character, and I was into it too whenever it started, right? Because it's cool, it's like a new supernatural guy. The mask was really cool. I love the aesthetic of the Fiend. It's really interesting, like those carnival pants. You know what I mean? The hair is crazy. It makes sense. But once again, when you're doing these supernatural sort of gimmicks, the first problem is they can't lose. Do you remember whenever Goldberg beat the Fiend at... It was in Saudi Arabia, right? Once again, as soon as a character like that loses, it's basically like back in the day if The Undertaker or Kane lost, the aura of the character gets eliminated. So something that is painted as above other human beings, it has this aura about it. It's like half man, half spirit, half dead, whatever, right? You cannot have that character in legitimate feuds because he has to win every single feud he's in. And that's what happened with The Fiend, if I'm not mistaken. The Fiend won and won and won and never lost anything until he fought Goldberg. Of course, they have to get the old legend to come back for the money draw. And then he lost the titles. And if The Fiend comes back, which please God, I hope they don't do that. They might just for the merchandise purposes. But if The Fiend comes back, he's not going to lose, right? Or do you remember when he came back the next WrestleMania, burned alive, right? It gets so unbelievable. You already have to suspend disbelief when watching pro wrestling. Something like that is so absurd, it's just like, you can't even take it seriously. But the new iteration of this seems to be Uncle Howdy and the eventual Wyatt 6 or whatever the heck it's going to end up being. It looks like it's going to be a bunch of random characters from Wyatt's imagination that are just going to pop up, and they're never going to let him lose matches, and they might turn on him and maybe he has bad flashbacks. And, you know, people are going to say, like, you have to be patient with him. It's an unraveling story. It takes time to develop and stuff. I understand patience, but that LA Knight feud went on for months and nothing happened. It amounted to absolutely nothing. And I'm really worried that's what's going to happen with Lashley too. It's going to be, let's assume they don't do some weird Firefly Funhouse match with him, which even so, again, I don't think Lashley has just the charisma and the reactions and the career history to really pull that off in a way they did with Cena, because Cena's just on another level of stardom. Lashley's going to have to job to this psych ward patient and lose all the momentum he's built, look like a dummy in the process. Maybe the only silver lining would be if the Hurt Business reforms and they help Lashley beat Bray. But then they're saying, well, that's how Bray's going to introduce the Wyatt 6. All his imaginations are going to come into fruition and it's going to be them versus the Hurt Business, which then that's going to hurt the Hurt Business. I don't know, man. I'm at the point now where Wyatt needs to go back to his old gimmick. Braun's back in the company. They could re-sign Eric Redbeard. Rest in peace, Luke Harper. He's gone. But even so, I mean, you could always find another big man to put in the stable. Even if he didn't have those big guys behind him, he could still just be the cult leader again, leading the way with the lantern and stuff, right? He's got the new theme song. He could just do that. But he just drags everybody else into this nonsensical mental fake-hate he puts on with this fake horror stuff. And it's really not working out. I mean, The Fiend was cool while it lasted. It ultimately amounted to not very much, if you ask me. It kind of ruined the titles. It had its own fake title. Again, another merchandise gimmick. All this stuff. It makes people that face him look illegitimate. I don't know, dude. But given everything that's happened at this point, I think we can say that Vince McMahon was right about Bray Wyatt. And that's why he released him. And his return so far, it started out cool. Kind of like The Fiend, it started out cool, and then it went on, and it dragged, and it dragged, and it dragged, and it dragged, and eventually you said, what's actually going on here? And then you think about it, and it's like, oh, nothing. The guy is just nuts.